Hello and welcome. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Steph.
And we are your hosts for the Star Trek Deep Space Nine Parmach cast.
Parmach, of course, being the Klingon word for love.
Because on this podcast, we believe that love will save the world.
And that the Deep Space Nine crew are all in a massive polyamorous relationship web.
That too. Hello, beautiful Parmachis, and welcome back to the show.
Welcome back, gang.
I hope you are all having a time, whatever time you feel like having, really. I don't want to be prescriptive on your lives, dear listeners.
That's very inclusive of you, Jamie. I appreciate that.
Thank you. You know, because I like to, tell people, have a good night, drive safe, things like that. And then it's like, what if they don't want to drive safe? What if that's not in their cards? I shouldn't be... forcing my expectations onto our listeners.
We all have free will, and we respect that here on the Parmach cast.
Thanks, the prophets, for our free will.
Shout out to y'all.
Today, we are here to talk about Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 2, Episode 23, titled Crossover.
Woo woo.
But not actually a crossover in... that there are not characters from TNG showing up here. It's a different flavor of crossover.
It's a different crossover, yeah.
For those of you who are comic-brained, you may have been expecting, that's what that means. But we're rather crossing the threshold into another dimension this week because we have a Mirror Universe episode on the chopping block.
Do-do-do. That's my Mirrorverse excited fanfare. I hope you enjoy it.
I liked that. I think that's exactly what a mirror sounds like if you could peer into its interiority. That's what they're thinking at all times.
Yeah, that sounds right.
What did you make of this episode, Steph? How did you like it? Especially as you are obviously our original series correspondent on this show, and that's where the Mirror Universe spawned from initially.
It is. I predictably love a Mirror episode. I love the Horny Eyeliner alternative universe. It's super fun. Generally, but then in particular with this episode and Deep Space Nine, to see Nana and Avery in particular, to the scenery a bit with these versions of the characters who are so different.
Agreed.
I really love that. Enjoyed it a lot. And then I just, love a little callback to TOS, of course. And I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed myself immensely watching it. How about you?
I enjoyed it immensely as well. When I went to see it, I was like, I don't remember how I felt about this episode. I feel like it was good, but I didn't have a super strong emotional memory one way or the other than Awuga the Intendant.
Yes.
That was what I remembered.
Awuga 110%.
Yeah. And it's a really fun time. I think one of the real strengths of it is they don't try to do, I think, too much in terms of the ensemble, because I could see the desire to make it really all about the showing off the mirror versions of the characters, and we do obviously get a lot of that in a way that is fun, but it's very story driven. And so the mirror characters that we really sit with are Mirror Kira the Intendant, Mirror Ben, and then we get little tiny bits of Mirror Quark, Mirror Odo, and Mirror Garrick. But beyond that, we don't even see... Oh, and Mirror O'Brien. We don't even see Mirror Dax or Bashir. We're not... It really feels like it's focused on telling the story it's trying to tell, rather than just being look, mirror, mirror, the original series, and that is a trap you can really fall into.
100%.
Like, I remember the Next Generation episode where they do the polywater intoxication bit from original series. That episode is terrible because it's like, let's just do the exact same thing. I mean, it does give us the data can fuck bit,
which
pays
crucial
dividends,
part of TNG, which, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that is essential. And I'm so glad they got that early on in the season. They were like, listen, we know you're wondering if he fucks, he fucks.
And yes, he absolutely does. And he does it well.
Yes.
Yeah, but beyond that episode didn't
though,
really do much. And I feel like this felt like, yeah, sure, we're going to have our winks and nods, but, like, mainly it is a story unlike any other.
It's a solid story.
Any other.
Yeah.
It's a Deep Space Nine episode. So I really appreciated that.
Yes, 100%. I agree.
Did you have a thought about flavor for this episode?
So I want to say, just off our current, list, bad hotel guests in space, except they aren't really the guests, they're the hosts. We're just in the wrong universe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Kira and Bashir are the guests in the and
they are not bad hotel guests, of course. They're lovely people.
But from the perspective of those hosting them, they are bad guests.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, the intendant would definitely say that Prime Kira violated Zeus's law, I think, if she was asked.
Odyssey mention.
What a great film. My God.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it yet. We should discuss
No.
Off
Any
mic.
thoughts on the Odyssey you want to drop?
I wanted to love it and I didn't.
Oh, interesting.
That's my spicy hot take.
I kind of love that, and also I'm kind of shocked by that.
Yeah. I went in expecting more, I think.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
We'll have to get into it more off mic, but is there
Yes.
any one thing in particular you would like to just, like, ream Christopher Nolan out for right now? Like, if there's, like, a thesis statement for how you feel like he failed with that film?
Yes. It was the Odyssey, but Odysseus was not Odysseus.
Okay, so it's from the perspective of, like, I know who this character is supposed to be, and it felt very different.
I mean, I wouldn't say I know. I'm not, like, an expert here, but, like, there are some pretty main qualities that Odysseus has, and we did not see them, like, at all, in my opinion.
Like the trickster kind of stuff.
Yeah. The trickster, the hubris, like, yeah.
Okay.
That felt totally absent to me. He was just kind of sad and wanted to go home.
Yeah. Nolan did, he was like, I'm going to tell the story I'm trying to tell here.
Exactly.
Which is, to take it back, I mean, this episode is kind of Kira and Julian's Odyssey. Like, they're really just trying to get home, and they keep running into people that, like, say crazy things at them, and they're like, I'm just trying to go home. Like,
I just want to go home. Perhaps this was the real Odyssey all along.
Anne Hathaway is waiting for me.
I, too, to be entirely fair, would want to get home as soon as possible if Anne Hathaway, my wife, was waiting for me.
If I was stopped for even an extra 2 seconds from going home to Anne Hathaway, my wife, I would simply throw myself into the sea. Like, Odysseus stronger than I.
Truly. But returning to our original topic at hand, my other flavor idea was BDSM, but the DS stands for deep space. Because, like, to me,
it certainly does.
The like, especially the Deep Space Nine Mirrorverse is very much like, what if everybody was just really into bondage?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I like this as a title. But what I was going to say was basically, yeah, I think it's a Mirror Universe episode, which is sort of its own unique flavor across Star Trek. Yeah,
that we don't really have a title for yet. Yeah.
Certainly there aren't going to be as many of them as some of our other flavors, but it does feel very unique and specific to me. Of like, we're doing a Mirror Universe episode.
Yep,
like,
that's the deal. That's what's going on today.
Kind of know what to expect. Yeah.
Yeah.
And interesting for this to sort of be the introduction to that new flavor on our podcast, because this was the introduction to the idea of the Mirror Universe as a flavor, as a genre, because up until this episode aired in 1994, it had only been Mirror Mirror. And obviously Trek has gone back to the Mirrorverse soup many times since then, but this was really the first revisit, the first retread, and the thing that made all of those subsequent mirror stories, for better or worse, possible.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. TNG was without any mirror episodes.
Yes, yeah, which I think is really interesting. And we'll definitely end up getting into that.
Yes.
Really quickly before we dive into our episode recap and discussion, I wondered if you, Captain Steph, might want to give our listeners who did not watch the original series maybe just the quickest Cliff Notes version of the events of Mirror Mirror.
Oh, I could try. I could do my best.
I believe in you. I'm not going to turn the timer on, but no, it's going in my mind.
Okay. So in the TOS
okay, I'm sorry.
episode, Jim, Uhura, Scotty, and Bones, through transporter shenanigans, as so often happens, end up in an alternate universe where instead of the United Federation of Planets, there is the Empire, the Terran Empire, and the Enterprise is, instead of the USS Enterprise, it's the ISS, the Imperial ship.
It's all bad, yeah.
Spock is there, but now he has a goatee and a mustache.
Yeah, that's how you know the universe is evil.
That's how it's the eyeliner and the facial hair. That's how you know.
I do feel like they missed an opportunity to give Kira a goatee for reasons that would go completely unexplained from the beginning of the episode to the end.
They should have, really. But yeah, it turns out that this alternate universe is very violent. It's very misogynistic, I would say. Basically, it's Bad News Bears, and Jim, of course, is like, this is terrible, and talks to alternate Spock, and of course, in every universe, Spirk is going to have some chemistry.
The one universal constant.
It's a universal constant, truly. And I forget the exact details, but basically,
because they're not important.
It's not. Basically, they figure out how to get back, but Mirror Spock, goatee and mustache Spock, is forever changed by the things that Jim shared with him about equality. At
the very last second,
and
Jim is like, "What if we didn't?" And Spock's like, "Whoa,
yeah, literally
crazy. That's wild, man.
Get wild." There's also a great, very homoerotic moment with Spock and Bones too, which is excellent. But yeah, so they go over, things are bad. Uhura has a very sexy crop top in it, actually, as well. I feel like that's important to note. And she threatens...
Just so you know, you've gone over your time, by 300.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
This is your fault for making me talk about TOS, because,
You can't talk about it at a reasonable pace. No, I understand that. I invited this, and now here we are.
And now you are dealing with the consequences of your action.
And I love every minute of it.
Thank you. Anyway, everyone's sexy. They get back to the regular Enterprise. Oh, and also the mirror counterparts are on the Enterprise, and Spock is immediately put them in the brig. These people crazy, and it's funny.
Yeah, it's a fun episode. It is definitely considered one of the iconic TOS episodes, and so. Not surprising, that they eventually sort of circled back to the concept. And, we'll have to see how we feel like they did living up to, that original concept.
And shall we dive into it then?
Let's do it. Well, as we said, today we are talking about Season 2, Episode 23, Crossover. This episode was directed by David Livingston with a teleplay by Peter Allen Fields and Michael Piller, and was released on May 15th, 1994, a Sunday.
And we open on Kira and Julian on their way back to the station aboard the runabout USS Rio Grande. The two were attending a hospital opening on New Bajor, the first Bajoran colony in the Gamma Quadrant. Kira asks Julian to take over the controls so she can meditate for a few minutes, and Julian, eager as ever to share, mentions that he studied rhythmic breathing with an expert named Isam Helwa. The subtle irritation that starts to form in Kira's face as soon as he starts talking is just chef's kiss. Mwah.
It's really good. I mean, this entire scene is incredible. He also said that he studied this breathing, whatever, back in college, which is a funny dig at a very specific type of person. But Julian, you didn't go to college. You went to Starfleet Academy. Like, what are you even talking about? Whatever. It's fine. Well, Kira attempts to ignore him and meditate, but Julian continues that he'd love to learn any Bajoran techniques she knows. Kira tells him that Bajorans usually just sit quietly.
The delivery on that is just 10 out of 10. It's so good.
Really hitting the ground running on Nana's perfect performance in this episode.
Truly. Julian takes the hint, but only briefly, before starting his own loud, rapid breathing exercises. Kira, irritated, asks what he's doing. Julian explains he's doing bellows breath, which is apparently meant to increase one's energy flow.
Yeah, and I nearly did a fucking spit take on my computer at this. It's so unbearably fucking funny to watch.
It's so good. It's so good.
Oh. Realizing she's not going to get any peace and quiet with Julian by her side, Kira relents and suggests listening to some music. She tells him that her musical knowledge is limited to Bajoran composers, but Julian, unfazed, instructs the computer to play a selection by Tor Jalan. Kira is surprised that Julian knows Tor's work, but the doctor explains that he's made a point to listen to Bajoran music ever since arriving on DS9.
Kira is momentarily impressed by Bashir's cultural sensitivity, but Julian, of course, manages to ruin it by giving his opinions on Tor's music, finding it derivative of the great Baldaric masters, but nonetheless pleasantly diverting. Julian, I am simply begging you to shut the fuck up.
It's truly so hilariously agonizing to watch.
It's like so good. Siddig is so fucking funny. He's so good.
Right when you think he's managed to get his foot out of his mouth, and bam, there it is. Just pied dans bouche. Well, after listening to the music for a moment, Julian starts up again to say he's glad the two of them are finally talking to one another, finding shared interests, and even moving on from past conflicts. Kira mutters dryly that, indeed, they're making room for brand new ones, which makes Julian laugh. He asks if he can call Kira by her name, Nerys, and insists that she call him Julian. Noticing Kira's reluctance, the doctor shares that it was difficult for Chief O'Brien at first as well, but now the two of them are like this, as he crosses his fingers.
Oh, God. And he corrects her. He's like, Julian, go on, say it. Julian. And I'm just like, Julian, shut the fuck up. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my God. I am
just
shriveling away in secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah, I love the contextualization of this parallel to his efforts to like woo O'Brien. And clearly he was like, wow, this was such a rousing success. I must try the same thing with Kira. And meanwhile, Miles could still barely stand his ass, but the only thing that has changed is that they're fucking raw occasionally and when Keiko is too busy with her plants. Like
he's like, no, this is great. It's gonna work again. It's gonna be great.
This is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted.
He pushes on and asks Kira to dinner, but she advises him to stick with Dax and makes it quite clear she is not interested in a date with the doctor. Embarrassed, Julian begins to try to explain that he wasn't asking her out on a date when the runabout's warning klaxon begins to chime. Heading into the wormhole, Kira had brought the runabout out of warp, but the warp field failed to fully collapse. This seemingly generated a mysterious flash of light as the ship crossed through the celestial passage.
The emergency stabilization controls bring the runabout back to normal, but Julian and Kira are both dizzy as they exit the wormhole. When they emerge, Kira and Julian are shocked to find that DS9 isn't where it's supposed to be at the mouth of the wormhole, instead orbiting Bajor as it once did under the Cardassians. Before they can investigate, a Klingon attack cruiser appears, and two officers beam aboard the runabout. Initially hostile, their demeanor shifts drastically upon seeing Kira, immediately standing down and apologizing profusely. The Klingons offer to escort them back to the station, and Kira assents despite her obvious confusion. And I fucking love this. Just like, yeah, you better give her some fucking respect. I don't know why, but damn, you better.
But you're correct. I love the crazy angles, like when the Klingons arrive, it's like it's being shot from the floor up at everyone. And when I was reading about the episode, the director, David Livingston, talked about the deliberate choice to make it immediately feel like things were wrong and out of whack with these like wild angles. And we get them a few times later in the episode as well. And I think that's just a great directing choice.
That's so cool. I love directors.
Right?
That's awesome.
Aboard the station, the two Klingons confer with Garrick, who is inexplicably dressed in a Cardassian officer's uniform. Garrick insists the Kira they saw must be an imposter, just as Julian and Kira emerge from the airlock. The two are confused by Garrick's appearance, and Kira demands to know what's going on. Just then, another Kira Nerys emerges from behind them, dressed in a slinky black catsuit. She tells Major Kira that the real question is, who are you? BDSM catsuits, Kira, let's go!
It's just simply the best entrance of any character on any Star Trek at any time, maybe any television show generally. It's perfect, and she is perfect, and I love her.
I love how she's instantly so different from, like, our Kira. The way she talks, the way she moves, like, that is a different woman. It's wild.
And she is the hottest woman I have ever seen in my life. No offense to regular Kira intended.
Correct.
And then we get our theme song. And when we return, Julian asks just where exactly they are. And Garrick tells him that they're on board Terok Nor, the center of authority in the Bajoran sector for the Alliance. Kira suggests she and Julian took a wrong turn in the wormhole, and they try to return to the runabout, but they're stopped by the Klingons and Garrick. And I love how she starts to be like, oh, the wormhole to the Gamma, and then, as though remembering who she's talking to, thinks better of it. It's just like a very smart little beat of like, I'm not telling any Garrick about that, if he doesn't already know. Yeah.
The other Kira, who the men refer to as the Intendant, tells Kira that if they are who she thinks they are, she just can't risk letting them go. The Intendant orders Julian be put to work and mentions that the supervisor should be advised to keep an eye on him, as he'll be unaware of the rules.
Deliciously ominous. God, the Intendant is just so fucking good.
So good.
Garrick and one of the Klingons escort Kira and the Intendant out of the airlock onto the promenade. Large banners hang with what appears to be a winged version of the Cardassian emblem intertwined with the Klingon emblem. Below the flags, exhausted and enslaved humans can be seen lugging large pieces of machinery.
A Klingon officer named Telok calls for the Intendant, telling her that the Terran he has with him attempted to stow away on a freighter leaving the station. The Intendant gently asks for the man's designation, which he gives as 0413 Theta. On hearing this, the Intendant appears dismayed, lamenting how hard he worked to earn the Theta designation, and the Alliance's trust. Her tone quickly changes as she dismisses the man, telling Garrick to send him to the mines. The shift in tone is so good. Like, there's this facade of, like, care and, compassion, and then it's so quickly replaced by this just brutal business-like dismissal.
Yeah, it is really good. This is a comparison that somehow never occurred to me before on my many, many previous watch-throughs, but I agree. Part of what is so excellent about the Intendant is the way she sort of pays lip service to being a reasonable, compassionate despot, only committing atrocities when her hand is forced by the ungrateful actions of those she oppresses. And I was like, does that sound like anyone we know? There is so much of Dukat in how the Intendant moves through the world, and I think it's interesting the very, very different ways that it lands for each of them. I think gender is a huge, huge component of this. We've talked before about how rare it is for a woman in fiction to be truly evil, and I think it's that sort of trope that leads the Intendant's expressions of compassion for the Terrans to feel maybe just a bit more sincere than Dukat's towards the Bajorans, which always feel very much like narcissistic delusion, but they are ultimately cut from the same cloth in a way that is really interesting.
That's such a great point, and I didn't clock that at all in my watch through, so I'm so glad you pointed that out. It is really good. Garrick argues with the Intendant, wanting to execute the man as an example, but the Intendant overrules him, saying she thinks he likes making an example of people a little too much.
Which I could see. That tracks.
Garrick asks to at least be allowed to interrogate the man, as 2 other Terrans have also been caught trying to escape in the last month. The Intendant acquiesces, but warns Garrick that the man better not die during the interrogation, or she'll make an example of him. And she walks away, and Good Lord, I hate to see her leave, but I love to watch her go.
Truly, this was the moment in history when the phrase slutty little waist was coined, actually. My God. I just also feel like I have to, like, apologize. Like, this episode is going to turn us into our most, like, disgusting versions of ourselves.
It really does. I'm sorry to all of you.
I'm sorry if you have gotten used to, like, coming here for, like, nuanced takes that, like, don't exploit and objectify women, because, like, we do try to do that for the most part, but this episode is rough.
To not, but if you put an visitor in a cat suit, there's only so much we could be, resistant to.
Go watch the video of her walking and tell me that you can have a normal reaction to that. Like, please. Well, meanwhile, one of the Klingon officers brings Julian to one of the station's ore processing centers. There, dozens of humans perform the same role their Bajoran counterparts did in the Prime universe during the Cardassian occupation. Sitting by one of the machines, Miles O'Brien tells Odo that they need to upgrade the machine's thorium containment cells or there will be an accident. Miles tells Odo that he won't be held responsible for the consequences if one does occur.
The Klingon brings Julian to Odo and informs him that Julian doesn't know the rules. Odo asks Julian for his designation, and when Julian gives him his name, Odo slaps him for making a joke. Odo asks again, and Julian tells him he doesn't have one. Odo corrects him, adding "sir" to the end of his statement. Julian gives a sarcastic response to another question, leading to another slap. Julian is simply incapable of not being a sarcastic little shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like he's enjoying this a little too much. I also love that in this universe, Odo is the Intendant's, like, kinky BDSM disciplinarian. That's just such a funny twist on the regular relationship there. And also, it's a dystopia when Odo's non-binary ass is insisting on being called sir. I was like, oop, that's a red flag.
That's just not right.
Well, on hearing that Julian is a doctor, Odo sarcastically tells him to scrub in before he operates and shoves him to help the other humans with a cart full of ore. Julian begins his work, but notices that O'Brien has intently observed the entire interaction.
The gay is strong in every universe.
Say that.
In Ops, the Intendant escorts Kira into her office. I enjoy that all the officers in Ops are also wearing the same BDS harness as Kira.
Yes.
Standard issue.
Yeah, that's the uniform, although they don't look as good in it. But no.
She sits and invites Kira to do the same, dismissing the guard and drinking in the sight of her doppelganger. Oh, God, just Nana is so good. She's, like, biting her finger in just, like, glee. And he's like, oh, sit down. I love her. She's so good.
It's relentless. I mean, like, and I don't want to give the wrong impression because, like, the Intendant is truly, like, monstrous. Like, she is,
she's
like,
evil. Yeah.
Evil personified. And we're going to get into, like, some of, like, the really, truly heinous things about her. And so I guess I just feel like I need to, like, disclaim that here, that it's like, if she were real, I would take issue with her.
Yeah, we do not support.
She's not real. And she is not only, again, like, the sexiest person I've ever seen in my entire life, but Nana's performance is just incredible. Like, the way that she manages to make her so clearly Kira Nerys and yet so clearly a different Kira is, like, I am in awe every single time we see her.
100%.
Well, the Intendant asks Kira about her world, hypothesizing that there's a station, Klingons, Cardassians, etc. Kira tells her yes, the players are all the same, but that in this universe they all seem to be playing different parts. The Intendant reveals to Kira that almost a century prior, a Terran starship captain named James Kirk accidentally traded places with his counterpart in her universe. While in the Intendant's universe, Kirk met a Vulcan named Spock and had a profound influence on him.
Gay.
Extremely. I also love Kira having absolutely no fucking idea who Kirk is. It's a great reversal of something that Star Trek does way too much, which is treating the events of past franchise installments as, like, historical events that literally everyone knows about in world. But, like, yeah, Hera would have no reason to know anything about Jim Kirk. And she's just like, yeah, no? Who the fuck is that? Like, why would I...
Why would I know who that person is? After Kirk left, Spock apparently became commander-in-chief of the barbaric but strong Terran Empire. Spock enacted a series of drastic reforms, including disarmament and an end to military colonization. However, once the reforms were complete, the Empire couldn't properly defend itself against the newly formed Klingon-Cardassian alliance.
Womp womp.
Bajor petitioned to join the alliance after being freed from decades of Terran occupation, and since has become quite an influential power in the alliance.
Yeah, and I just think that this is such an interesting take on the events of Mirror Mirror and the fallout thereof, because, I mean, we'll get more deeply into this as it sort of unfolds, but, like, Mirror Mirror is very much a bottle episode. It takes place entirely on both Enterprises, and while the ending implies that there is at least a strong chance that Kirk's influence on Goatee Spock might make a difference somehow in the Mirror Universe, it's like we never see more of the Mirror Universe than the ISS Enterprise. And this sort of taking a step back and looking at, like, I mean, doing what DS9 does best, looking at the broader political context that the stories are existing in. I just think that's so smart, and it's such a Deep Space Nine way to do a mirror episode, which 100%. Is part of what I love about this. It doesn't feel like we're doing a TOS redux in any way.
Yes, 100%. And I do love that we get an actual investigation of Jim constantly ignoring the Prime Directive. Like, because that's just kind of his main thing. I love him dearly, but the man does not follow the main precept of Starfleet.
He fully just does whatever, and
he does what he thinks is right. And while I agree with him most of the time, I do acknowledge that that's not what he's supposed to be doing.
Well, okay, that is true that that's not what he's supposed to be doing, but I will take this opportunity because I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, just because, I think our contact with, like, Federation, like, headquarters stuff has been pretty limited up until now. We're trying to establish the Bajor of it all, but one thing that I choose to believe about how these things work based on, like, treating what we're given on screen as evidence rather than just like, oh, some of this doesn't really line up, is that, like, Starfleet operates by, in my opinion, Starfleet operates by having very, very strict codes of conduct, rules, laws, the rank structure. Like, there is so much that is strict and structured and by the book in terms of how Starfleet is set up. And I think the only thing that stops that from tipping into, like, fasciness is the fact that there also seems to be this sort of, like, unspoken policy of, like, on the edge of space, we trust the captains to make the right decision, and that's why we put them in the chair. You know, where it's like, we have to be able to have Starfleet functions by the two pillars coexisting together, the institutional structural pillar and the human judgment pillar based off of, like, the moral context of your circumstance, right? Because, like, really, if that was not part of the fabric of how Starfleet worked, Jim Kirk wouldn't have a job, you know? Like, it's very clear that, like, the ways that he consistently does what is right, despite what maybe is expected of him, is treated as a plus and has been a benefit to his career throughout, rather than 100%. A hindrance. So I think that's a very important thing about how Starfleet works generally, and we see that a lot with Sisko in DS9, where, like, they have placed a phenomenal amount of trust in his judgment. 100%.
I also think, like, just talking about the Prime Directive, you cannot observe or interact with something without affecting it. Like, we know this. Like, even if you're like, oh, okay, I'm not going to change anything, your presence there. Like, this is a thing in science, right? We know, like, particles act differently when they're being observed. Like, you can't be present somewhere and not have some effect on it. And so, in a way, I think the Prime Directive is, like, it's almost moot in many ways, because if you're somewhere and you're interacting with people, it's going to have an impact. It just will. Like, there's no way to avoid that. So
I mean, I don't know if I would agree that it's moot, but I think that you point to something which is very real, which is that it's, like, dangerously broad, perhaps. Because, you know, there's the part of the Prime Directive that is, like, we should not do a coup.
Yes.
Even if we really don't like the government that is there.
Even if we really want to do a coup.
And then there is the part of the Prime Directive that is like, aliens who have not yet discovered warp should not be allowed to even know that we exist.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And those feel like they're operating on very different levels, where like the latter is more in line with sort of what you were talking about like the scientific observation, and the former is more grounded in Roddenberry's critique of American interventionism.
Yes, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's
like,
so much you can talk about with the Prime Directive. I'm being reductive, for sure.
No, but I think it's a good point you raise about that specific part of it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I also think that it's like, you know, this may be a bit of a devil's advocate kind of argument, but like, you also... making a choice to do nothing is a choice. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm, and so even if it's a choice of non-interference, your choices are still impacting this society. Like, there's like several episodes of Star Trek throughout the, you know, different installments in the franchise where they'll be faced with a question of like, do we save this species from extinction or like a horrible natural disaster and risk exposing them to the existence of Starfleet and all of that. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's, if you make the choice not to do that, you are kind of killing those people. Yeah. And like, a good lawyer could certainly argue that there's a different way to look at it, but I think that's indelibly part of the debates around the Prime Directive as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Anyways.
Not to take us on a tangent. I was just like, hey, look, consequences of Jim Kirk's action.
This is Tangent Central, where we live in the wormhole for a reason.
Oh, so true. So true.
Well, the Intendant asks if there are any similarities to Kira's universe, but Kira tells her that her Bajor hasn't been so lucky. The Intendant wants to know more, but Kira insists that she can't stay. The Intendant explains that, unfortunately, she just doesn't know how to send Kira back to her universe, and that even if she could, it wouldn't be allowed. After taking power, the Alliance apparently decided that any visitors from other universes must be killed immediately in order to prevent any further interference in their affairs. So, I feel like that our discussion about the Prime Directive feels very relevant. The Intendant tells Kira that, unlike her first officer Garrick, she has no taste for violence and regrets using it even when it seems necessary.
Kira tells her that she knows exactly what she means, and furthermore, she knows that the Intendant is looking for an excuse not to kill her.
And the Intendant just has this incredible line delivery here where she goes, "You do, don't you?" And it's like this woman is being seen for the first time ever in her life. You know, I think that the Intendant is, as we sort of said, ultimately a sadistic lunatic.
Yes.
But somewhere deep inside here, there is a little girl that is just so lonely. And I love how Nana plays with, like, letting little bits of that part of her slip around Kira, where she isn't, I don't think, revealing those vulnerabilities on purpose. No. She just simply can't help but to let her guard down, because this is the first time she has ever felt safe to do so while another person is in the room. And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, 100%. Kira asks for the Intendant's help, telling her she thinks a leader like the Intendant could teach her what she needs to be the leader of a stronger Bajor in her universe. Do we think Kira is being sincere here? Because she seems like so sincere, but I'm like, it must just be a ploy to keep the Intendant from killing her, right? Like, she can't be looking at the station here in this universe and going, yeah, this is good. And like I don't know, I don't see her as really wanting to be the leader of Bajor. Like I don't think that's who she is. Like I don't know.
No, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, I don't think she's being sincere about wanting the Intendant to influence the Bajor of the Prime Universe, but I do think that she sees something of herself that she recognizes in this otherwise terrifying woman that shares her face. And I think the appeal to that thing is what's ringing with the sincerity that you're picking up on. Like, the logistical details of her appeal are bullshit, but there is an emotional reality that resonates. And, you know, I also think that despite the fashiness of it all, Kira does find the idea of a powerful Bajor that is an important member of a major interstellar alliance to be appealing. And I think she is curious as to how the Attendant achieved that, you know, maybe more than she might want to admit to herself.
That's fair. Yeah. I like this analysis.
Thank you. Well, while the idea appeals to the Intendant, she tells Kira that she'll have to kill Dr. Bashir. Kira asks her not to, saying, you know, he's an arrogant but ultimately harmless Terran. But the Intendant insists letting him live is too dangerous, and the Klingons and the Cardassians would never allow it. Kira, however, knows herself too well and tells the Intendant she knows she doesn't give a damn what the Cardassians or the Klingons think. Delighted, the Intendant laughs and says admiringly, "You know how to manipulate me." She doesn't agree exactly, but she doesn't say no again, and sends Kira off with a guard to find her some quarters.
Nana acting with Nana, truly a perfect scene.
Oh, my thoughts exactly, Steph. Also, the line she says as Kira leaves is, "And find this attractive young woman some quarters." And it just fucking killed me.
It's so good. It's so good. Later, in the ore processing center, Kira arrives to inspect the facilities and meets Mirror Odo. Like the Odo from her universe, he prides himself on his efficiency, telling her that all the workers behave with him in charge. Kira takes the opportunity to speak with Bashir, who immediately recognizes the name Kirk and realizes where they are.
And I love how Kira is like, good, well, if you don't mind, I'll speak with him. And Mirror Odo was like so thrown off by that, and it's just like, but Kira's already on her way off, and it's like, well,
too late now.
No one can really tell Kira anything while she's here for fear of the Intendant, and it's a very fun dynamic.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, Bashir mentions that a transporter brought Kirk to this universe, and that perhaps a transporter is the way that they can get back to their own. He tells Kira he's located O'Brien, and mentions that perhaps he can help if he knows as much about transporters here as their O'Brien does. Kira agrees to his plans and tells Julian that she'll look for others who might help them.
We cut to Quarks, which is bustling in this universe as well, with a group of Bajorians and Cardassians playing Dabo as Kira enters. Quark, having heard about her arrival, tells Kira that she is indeed the spitting image of the Intendant, and is surprised when Kira knows his name. And he offers her the tea, like, oh, this is what the Intendant usually likes around this time of day. And she's like, well, I'm not her. But that does sound good. And I like that she's begrudgingly like, I do like that tea, though.
Yeah. It also feels like a very strategic maneuver to me. Like, she's like, I'm not the Intendant. But, and it's a sort of like breaking the ice and trying to show him that she's trustworthy. It's just a really good little beat with, it feels like a lot layered into it.
Interesting. I like it.
Well, as he makes her tea, Quark asks if there are friends back on her side. Kira tells him that indeed they are, and that her Quark does her a lot of favors. She mentions that her Quark can get all sorts of things done when no one else can, even avoiding the security teams to accomplish things sometimes. He gets her the things she needs, such as, say, a transporter for a few hours. And, this exchange is one of my favorites in the whole episode. It's such an interesting inverse of the usual Quark and Kira dynamic, and it's so cool to me how they sort of are able to, like, I don't know, speak the same language in a way. You know, I also think that alternate universe stories are always most interesting as a way of exploring the existing characters in a different context. And this version of Quark feels like he's very sort of in touch and tied in with what little we have heard and seen of how Prime Quark operated during the Cardassian occupation, as someone who got like black market items for like blankets and tea for the Bajorans. I just thought that was really interesting, and the way that they're sort of able to speak to each other as people who have lived as rebels under occupation.
Yeah, under occupation. I do think it's hilarious that Kira's like, oh yeah, we're like really good friends. And like a couple episodes, she was like, I hope you fucking die.
I want to murder you with my bare hands. Yeah.
Well, this Quark makes sure that Kira's Klingon escort is out of earshot and tells Kira that he might be able to get her access to a transporter in exchange for showing him how to send other people across. Kira starts to say that she can't just open a revolving door between universes, but is cut off by Garrick entering the bar and yelling for Quark.
Quark greets Garrick amicably, anxious to please, but Garrick informs him that he's under arrest for helping Terrans escape from Terok Nor. Quark objects that he's a coward who doesn't stick his neck out for anyone, but Garrick tells him that the Terran he interrogated that morning says otherwise.
Quark pulls out a phaser rifle from behind the bar and attempts to escape, but the Klingons quickly overwhelm him and drag him away.
Yes, and I love the moment of Quark just whipping this rifle out of nowhere and opening fire. It's very like, we're not in Kansas anymore.
This motherfucker's got a rifle back here.
Well, seconds later, a group of rowdy Terrans, led by none other than Benjamin Sisko, enter, proceeding to help themselves to the drinks at the bar on hearing that Quark has been arrested.
The energy of Avery is so different, even in this short little moment here. It's so amazing.
God, yeah, he's so, like, raw and rough around the edges, almost swashbuckly, and Kira is just like, what the fuck? It's so funny.
Who is this man?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Terrans working in ore processing are having a meal break. Julian makes his way to where O'Brien is working on a panel and shares with him that on his side, the two of them are best friends. And Miles is like, you and me? Like, even this Miles is like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, he's like, that doesn't sound quite right. Best friends? Well, O'Brien asks if he's a doctor as well, and Julian informs him that no, he's in fact chief of operations of this very station. O'Brien stops his work to talk to Julian, and as he hears more about O'Brien's life in the other universe, he says the other Miles must have gotten the lucky draw between the two of them.
Julian changes the subject, asking how much Miles knows about transporters. Miles says he's not an expert, but knows as much as any Terran. Julian explains his plan, but O'Brien thinks Julian is lying to him about his universe in order to get his help.
Which, like, fair. That's a pretty crazy story. I mean, like, obviously he's not, but I can see why he's like, no! Like,
oh, this is all bullshit, yeah.
Yeah.
Julian insists that everything he said is sincere, but O'Brien goes back to work and tells him that he doesn't know him and he's not his friend.
Odo interrupts the two of them to say that the meal break is over and to tell O'Brien that Mr. Sisko has requested his presence in the bar. O'Brien protests that he needs to finish his repair work, but just as in our universe, his protests go unheeded.
In every universe, Miles simply cannot catch a break.
Truly.
In Quark's, a jovial but erratic Benjamin approaches Kira, telling her that the Intendant called him all the way from the Fowler system to see her. He goes to grab Kira's face, but she slaps his hand away, prompting Ben to tell her that she shares not only the Intendant's good looks, but her temper.
Kira observes Ben and his friends don't seem to act like typical Terrans, and he explains that the Intendant provides him with a ship and a crew in exchange for raiding ships passing through the area on the Intendant's behalf. Kira asks why he gets special treatment, and he tells her that he amuses the Intendant, and observes that Kira must amuse her as well. Again, Ben goes to hold Kira's face, almost kissing her, when O'Brien enters and asks what Sisko wants. And God, it's so interesting and effective how deeply unsettling this version of Sisko is.
So unsettling.
It's a great example of doing an alternate universe approach to a character the right way, asking what it would look like for Sisko's charm, boundless confidence, and emotional intensity to be embodied by a man without a shred of Prime Sisko's moral restraint. It's really, really interesting.
It's so good. It's so good. Ben seems delighted to see Miles, calling him Smiley, despite Miles objecting to the nickname. Ben asks him how he's being treated on the station in an attempt to make small talk, but quickly observes that Smiley doesn't seem to like him very much. Miles reluctantly confirms this, making Ben laugh uproariously.
And God, his laughter is so scary. It's so good.
So scary! Avery is, he's incredible in this episode. Cutting to the chase, Ben tells Smiley that his impulse driver coil needs to be repaired. O'Brien objects that the problems in ore processing require his urgent attention, but Ben simply doesn't care about that and orders Smiley to fix his ship first.
Just then, the Intendant calls for Ben, telling him to report to her quarters to discuss his recent mission. A shattered, haunted look briefly flashes across Sisko's face, but when he turns back to face his comrades, he affixes a wide grin on his lips once again, slapping backs and laughing as they cheer him on.
The way he looks when the Intendant calls for him and the way that his crew laughs and are like kind of jeering and cheering him puts the way he approaches our Kira, in a very interesting context. Like,
it does.
It's clear he's being summoned to the Intendant's quarters for sex. And while he's giving the crew the impression that he's looking forward to it, like enjoying the relationship, his face when he's turned away from them tells a very different story.
Yeah, this moment is absolutely devastating, in my opinion, and it's one of the moments from this episode that was seared into my mind from the first viewing. It just feels really important that despite how much fun it is watching Nana play evil Kira and slink around in her evil cat suit, that this woman is also, like we sort of alluded to, genuinely monstrous. And all the charm and the charisma in the world can't undo what we learn about her in this scene, which is that she has been habitually raping Mirror Benjamin. And there's so much bottled up in these few seconds of screen time about the complex dynamics surrounding sexual assault of men. And I just think that Avery does such a fucking incredible job with this beat. He really gives the moment the weight and pathos that it needs and deserves. And I also think it's so important that Prime Kira does get to see the real expression on his face here, and I think clearly understands its meaning and is horrified.
100%. Yeah. She understands exactly what is going on.
Yeah. Well, later, Kira enters the Intendant's quarters to find her seemingly bathing in milk, attended by Vulcan servants, while Sisko lounges on a chair facing the door.
We love a self-care bath with candles and milk.
Oh, yeah. We do, and I also love Benjamin's big-ass self-care knife that he's playing with while she does that. It's like a fidget spinner for marauding space pirates.
I think he's, like, eating a grape off the end of it, too. Like, he's...
Perfect.
Like, it's a fidget spinner and a utensil.
Yeah, multi-purpose.
The Intendant asks if there is another Ben Sisko on Kira's side, and on hearing there is positively delighted by the idea of two Siskos. Not to be horny on Maine, but see.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ben goes to leave, saying he needs to check on his ship. The Intendant stops him, asking if she hurt his feelings. He tells her coolly that he never had any feelings for her to hurt, and leaves.
Yeah, and you really get a sense from this quick exchange just what an incredibly difficult and potentially deadly dynamic he has been navigating with this woman for years now, and it's just really good work on the part of both actors. We have been watching Prime Kira and Benjamin's relationship develop over the course of 2 years, and to be able to get from one scene the fact that these two have an equally complex and long-lasting relationship, although obviously much more fucked up.
Yeah.
It's just really cool.
Yeah, the two of them are just... God, I can't say enough good things about their acting.
It's yeah. The Intendant rises from her bath, asking Kira why she's heard that her doppelganger is apparently looking for access to a transporter. Kira reminds the Intendant that she's looking for a way back home, but the Intendant tells her sadly that if Kira had just come to her with this request, she could have told her that the transporters were all redesigned after the first crossover to prevent future incidents.
Something that probably wasn't done in the Prime universe. So good move, Mirrorverse.
Yeah, that's fair. They were the ones that were really like, no, this can't happen.
Yeah, we can't have this again. The Intendant approaches Kira, wanting to know why Kira didn't come to her first. Kira reluctantly admits that she is afraid of the Intendant, and the Intendant tells her that she doesn't want her fear, but rather her love. If you can't love me, who can? The Intendant asks as she puts a hand gently under Kira's chin, tilting her face. Just then, the door chime rings. So we know Kira's answer to the question, would you fuck your own clone?
Saved by the bell, fortunately for Prime Kira. Carrick and a Klingon soldier drag Quark, who has clearly been beaten, into the room and throw him to the floor. The Intendant kneels to his level and comforts him, explaining that she understands he helped the Terrans escape because he felt sorry for them. She reminds him, however, that the Alliance needs Terran labor to process ore. Rising, she tells Garrick to give Quark a quick death and turns away, ignoring Quark's pleas for mercy as he's dragged from the room. Kira is horrified, but the Intendant, now in a good mood, tells Kira she's going to throw them a party that evening. What shall we wear? She asks with girlish glee.
Later, Kira returns to her quarters with a new lavender dress in hand, only to find Garrick waiting there for her. Grinning from ear to ear, Garrick comments on how much he admires a well-tailored gown.
Yeah, I guess a faggot's gonna faggot in any universe. I really liked that line.
It was good. He goes on to explain that the Intendant will never let Kira go, as she's completely enamored with her. As he's explaining this, there's just this line that's so good. He's like, "You're the perfect gift for the girl who has everything." Mm-hmm. And just the way Andy Robinson delivers it, it's so good.
Yeah, it's an excellent line. Kira points out that the guard outside her door shows how much the Intendant trusts her, but Garrick informs her that he arranged the guard. Pivoting, Garrick tells Kira that the Intendant will be gone in the morning, and that if Kira wants to escape, she will assume the Intendant's place. Shortly after, Kira will retire to Bajor, and Garrick will become Intendant, after which he promises to send Kira and Julian home.
There's just this great moment where he's like, "You'll retire to Bajor to explore your pa or whatever." Like, he's just
or whatever
so like,
Bajorans
I don't know, whatever
yeah.
you Bajorans do.
With your bumpy noses and your earrings.
Garrick goes to leave, telling Kira to consider the idea, and adding that if she refuses him, he's made arrangements for Julian to be the one gone by morning.
And as he goes, he just gives her a little kissy face, a little... And I'm just like, what a fucking weirdo. I love Garrick in any universe. Oh, so strange. Kira quickly makes her way to the ore processing center, telling Julian that they'll have to get out of there tonight. There's no time to explain further, other than to tell Julian to watch his back and to find a way to the runabout so they could potentially escape through the wormhole, which the Alliance still, thank God, knows nothing about.
Thank goodness.
There won't be much warning if an opportunity presents itself, so Kira tells Bashir to be ready to go at a moment's notice.
And there's a cut to Odo watching them, and he gives an evil Odo smile, and it's really creepy, and I love it.
Yeah, he doesn't do a ton in this episode, but God, I love Odo.
Back on the promenade, Kira finds Ben napping at a table, apparently mid-meal.
And one thing I love so much about this moment is she sort of like whisper hisses at him, "Cisco!" And he replies, "Tell her I'm busy," implying that even with his eyes closed, Mirror Benjamin is able to tell the two Kiras apart by voice alone. And I think that's incredible.
That's such a good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Like, I mean, this woman lives in his head rent-free all the time. She's been torturing and abusing him for who knows how long.
Yeah.
And just the subtle differences between how they act must seem enormous to him, right? Because he's so used to having to, like, I mean, it's like living with an abuser where you have to sort of make yourself responsible for their emotions. And so, yeah, I'm sure he's always looking for, like, any little change in her tone and stuff like that. And that hyper-vigilance that comes with living in an abusive environment.
So unfortunately real. Kira tells Ben that she has valuable information she wants to trade in exchange for his helping her get the runabout back so she can leave the station. Ben laughs at the idea, telling her that if he were to help her, the intendant would have his head. Or something else.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then he's just like, she's gonna chop my dick off. I can't do that. Kira dispenses with negotiations and tells Ben that Garrick is planning to kill the intendant that night. Ben is unconcerned for his part, telling her that Garrick has been trying to kill the intendant since he first arrived on the station. I was just like, LOL. LMAO even.
Classic Garrick. When Kira reveals that Garrick intends her to take the intendant's place, Ben is amused and gives Garrick credit for getting more creative than usual with his scheme. Frustrated, Kira demands to know why Ben doesn't seem to care about the tyranny all around him or the fact that he and his fellow Terrans live as slaves.
Yeah, there's a great little exchange here where he asks her, why do you care so much about Terran freedom? And she replies, kind of exasperated, I care about freedom! And it's just like their life experiences, their positions in their respective universes could not be more different. Yeah. And yet also they both lived under fascist occupation. Mm-hmm. And the things that they both had to do to survive that were so different and interesting. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. I just really love this little moment between the two of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, Ben counters that he has made the best of a bad life for himself and his crew. But Kira tells him that despite how he managed to charm his way out of the mines, they both know that he is no less a victim than anyone else living under the Alliance's tyranny. At this, she turns to go, disgusted, leaving Ben to contemplate her words.
This is such a great scene. Like, the two of them are always just extraordinary together.
Yeah, they are.
I really love the way Kira sees through this Ben's facade and, supposed, like, devil-may-care attitude and sees it for what it is, this defense for the situation that he's in and what he has to do to survive. It's just so good.
Agreed. And I think that the only reason she's really able to see through the facade is because she knows Prime Benjamin. I don't think anyone else in this universe has probably ever cut through his bullshit quite like that before. And it really gets to Mirror Ben in a way that is fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it's so good. Later, Kira arrives at the Intendant's party, which is taking place in Quarks, wearing her new lavender dress.
Good fucking Jesus God, awooga and amen. Holy fuck.
Speak on it.
Whew, that color on her does things to me.
Lord.
Deep inside.
Lord. Inside, one of the Klingon soldiers is bragging to his comrades about his time in service to the House of Duras, when one of Ben's crew accidentally bumps him, spilling his drink. The Klingon punches the human man, knocking him down and calling him a stupid Terran pig, but one look from Benjamin is enough to make the man think twice about returning the insult.
Disgusted by the human's unwillingness to fight, the Klingon soldier spits in the man's face and orders him away. Ben moves to confront the Klingon, but before he can, the Intendant enters to applause from the crowd, wearing the exact same lavender dress as Kira. The Intendant orders a Bajoran musician nearby to play something bright, as she is in a happy mood.
Back in ore processing, Julian is sitting exhausted when Odo approaches, kicking and taunting him about how he isn't used to the workload. Just then, as Smiley O'Brien had been warning since we first met him, the thorium containment field on one of the processing machines fails. The workers and guards scatter as explosions fill the room, and Odo calls for engineering. Julian uses the opportunity to attack one of the Bajoran deputies and steal his phaser. Odo spots Julian and reaches for his own phaser, but Bashir shoots him before he can reach it, causing him to explode and splatter goo everywhere. I fully lost my mind. I don't know how to explain.
Yeah.
I shouted, "Oh shit," at the TV. And then lost it laughing. I rewound it and I made Peter come into the room and watch it with me because I was just dying. It was so
good.
Funny.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. It's like a balloon full of paint popping and just I also I feel like Prime Odo gets shot with phasers all the time and this doesn't happen, but whatever. It's cool. It looks cool.
Great practical effects.
Yeah. Well, the station is on high alert as Julian sprints through a corridor, ducking into a conduit to hide from pursuing Klingons. He crawls a short way, only to find none other than Smiley O'Brien working at a panel trying to seal the thorium leak.
If there's one thing you can count on in every universe, it's gays in the Jeffries tubes.
100%. That's why they called him Jeffrey. That was the first gay man in Starfleet. Julia tries to get Smiley to help him find his way to the runabout, but O'Brien refuses, saying he'll be killed if he does. Julian tells him sadly that he's already dead. Like every other Terran on the station, the life inside him has died. He goes to enter another conduit, but Smiley stops him, saying he's going the wrong way. Smiley asks if there would be room on Julian's ship for him, and after pausing to consider how unhappy Starfleet would be with the arrangement, Julian decides to hell with them, and he and Smiley set off together through the conduits.
Big Jim Kirk energy. Fuck messing up the universes. Let's roll.
Big Jim Kirk energy. And it also made me realize Bashir is actually very Kirk in a way that I never realized before. He doesn't have the womanizing thing going on, which sort of made me not see it, but like the very like, I'm gonna do what I think is right.
Yeah. He very much is like, this is what's right, and I'm gonna do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Which is a very Starfleet quality, but like Jim and Julian both do it in a very similar way of like, what if I just do the right thing and don't tell anyone and no one has to know and it's fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. Like they're just not really concerned with like the institutional consequences at all.
And good for them. The two emerge in another corridor, but are quickly cut off from their escape route by the Klingons.
And the face that Smiley makes at Julian here absolutely kills me. It's like, turns out dead inside might be better than dead inside and outside, huh? Back in Quarks, one of the Klingon soldiers interrupts the party, bringing in Julian and Smiley and telling the Intendant what happened. The Intendant is furious with herself, saying she never should have listened to Kira and kept Bashir alive. She rebukes Julian for killing Odo, lamenting the loss of an irreplaceable man.
There's just a great exchange here where she's like rebuking Julian and he's like, what a laugh. And she's like, quiet.
Yes!
And just the
delivery is so good.
She's so unhinged. I love her.
Oh, yeah. And I loved, one thing I really loved about this exchange was seeing this dark mirror of Kira and Odo's affection for one another, where like she really genuinely mourns his loss here, but also everything she has to say about him is about his cold efficiency as a fascist enforcer. Like, she might as well be saying with one manly tear rolling down her cheek, no one kept the trains running on time like he did. Like, very, very that. Also, there's this moment during the Intendant's, like, morning speech where you can see Benjamin at the back of the room behind Garrick, and he has got this absolute shit-eating grin on. It's so good. Like, I don't think he has probably ever seen his tormentor put on her back foot like this before, and it must be so immensely satisfying.
Oh, yeah. Lamenting that this is the thanks she apparently gets for treating her Terran slaves with the least bit of respect, the Intendant tells Garrick that she will now allow him to make an example of someone, and orders him to kill Julian publicly on the promenade so all Terrans will hear his cries for mercy.
Possibly her most Dukat-like moment. The parallel is really, really unnerving here, I thought.
Kira attempts to intervene, but the Intendant tells her that if she speaks a single word, she will share Julian's fate.
She's like, you are the best vibrator I've ever met, and I really don't want to lose you, but I will if I have to. Well, the Intendant turns to O'Brien, asking what got into him after being a perfect worker for years. Smiley tells her that hearing about his life in the other universe got him thinking about how each of them might have turned out if history had been just a little different. And I love that we had Miles just straight up vocalize like the thesis statement for doing an alternate universe story. I thought that was fun.
In this episode, I will.
Yes, yeah. Smiley says he wanted Julian to take him with him because whatever life was like in that other universe, there had to be something out there better than the one he was living.
Not for you, Mr. O'Brien, the Intendant replies coolly. She nods to Garrick, who begins to lead Julian and Miles out of the room, but Ben suddenly intervenes, grabbing Garrick's weapon. Kira and Ben's crews follow suit, grabbing weapons from the Klingons and Cardassians in the room. The Intendant asks if Ben has lost his mind, And with sincerity, he tells her that he didn't lose it, he just changed it.
Yeah, I feel like the delivery on that line, I can't remember exactly, but if I had to guess, it's an Avery Brooks. I just changed it.
Ben, Kira, and the other Terrans slowly back out of the bar, and Ben shoots the panel above the door, locking it behind them. The Intendant watches them leave with tears welling in her eyes.
Which I just thought extremely fair reaction to say goodbye to the hottest woman you've ever seen.
So true.
That's
so
like,
true.
We all get it. As they make their way to the runabout, Kira warns Sisko that the Intendant will track him down no matter what. Julian suggests that Ben and the crew come with them, but Ben assures him that he could stay ahead of the law. Hearing that Sisko is planning to continue to stir up trouble for the Alliance, Smiley changes his mind about leaving and asks to join Ben's crew. Sisko smiles, telling him that they could always use a good tinkerer and putterer. Kira thanks Sisko for his help, and she and Julian head off through the airlock to their runabout.
The two fire up the ship and depart the station as quickly as possible. As they head for the approximate location of the wormhole, Julian reports that he's still reading a plasma injector leak in the warp core. Kira tells him that that's what she's counting on to return them home, setting all conditions to what they were when they came through to the alternate universe.
I just love her piloting the runabout in this, like, lavender evening gown.
Right?
It's just such a great image.
She looks fantastic.
I mean, as always, yeah.
Yeah. A Klingon cruiser pursues them, firing and hitting the runabout, but they manage to just make it to the wormhole. Once again, there is a rough ride, accompanied by a brilliant flash of light.
In Ops, back on Deep Space Nine, Ben emerges from his office and asks if anything has been found. Dax reports that a search vessel picked up traces of the runabout's warp signature and a plasma leak, but no ship. Just then, the computer alerts that someone is coming through the wormhole, and Miles announces it appears to be Julian and Kira in their damaged runabout. Sisko tells Dax to hail the runabout, and in a true dad combination of concern and annoyance, asks where they've been. Through the looking glass, Commander, Kira tells him, it's good to be back.
Roll credits.
And we roll our credits. What an episode. Oh boy.
It's a great one.
All right. Would you like to take it away with your final analysis, Captain Steph?
I would love to. I really enjoyed this episode. As I said earlier, I love a Mirrorverse episode, as I mentioned, and I think this one is very good. It's tight pacing, fun alternate versions of our faves, strong story.
Yeah.
The standout to me, of course, is the Intendant. Nana is just phenomenal, creating this other version of Kira in all her tyrannical, crazy, horny glory. Just iconic. Absolutely.
And then playing her opposite Kira. I mean,
yeah.
That's like, it's a 1-2 punch of, like, to create a character that is Kira but is also a different person, and then to have them share scenes together. I mean, like, incredible stuff.
Yeah, just great stuff. How about for you?
Yeah, I agree. This is a very fun episode. I loved Nana Visitor getting to basically just, like, fully dominate the show from start to finish because, yeah, I would say Kira is the primary character of this episode, and then the Intendant is probably the secondary character. And then everyone else is kind of supporting. I loved getting to visit the Mirror Universe again, and particularly this take on, you know, what had happened in the Mirror Universe since the time of Kirk. I could completely understand how other, like, Return to the Mirror Universe pitches didn't excite the writers on TNG, particularly if it was just going to be, like, more Terran Empire, Evil Picard, Evil Enterprise, etc. I think that the approach to consider the Mirror Universe as a real place with real inhabitants whose lives are more than just a reflection of the Prime Universe was so smart and makes this story so much more compelling than if we just did more Terran Empire stuff. It also allowed them to tap into and play with the actual real themes of Deep Space Nine rather than it feeling, you know, weirdly like a TOS redux. You know, like this is about the Holocaust in the way that, like, so much of Deep Space Nine is about the Holocaust, right? And I just thought that was really cool how they were able to do that, and it felt very sort of like very validating of the choice up until now to not revisit the mirror universe, of like waiting for the right story at the right time.
Yeah.
To tell a story that you want to tell on its own sake, not just because it's a sequel to Mirror Mirror in some ways. Alternate universe stories are super, super common in superhero comics, which I think everyone knows I really love at this point. So I'm very familiar with them. And they are, I would say, pretty rarely my most favorite flavor of story, because it can be hard sometimes for the stakes to feel real in an AU. And the best version of an AU story is one which allows the audience to view the characters that we know and love from a different perspective, and to really think about what they might be like under different circumstances. And I saw a note on Memory Alpha about how one of the writers for this episode had recently watched Schindler's List, which is funny because I know that also came up when we were talking about the Wire episode.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Schindler's List again. Okay.
It's like this one guy watched Schindler's List once and it had like impact waves that he could never have anticipated.
I mean, to be fair, it's Schindler's List. That's
yeah, fair.
Understandable.
But so he watched this film and he apparently found himself thinking, if the Germans had won the war, I absolutely would not be doing what I am right now. What might I be doing? What might my life look like? And I just think that that is such a fascinating genesis for the approach to this story.
Yeah.
And then I also just love the detail of the Bajorans having undergone the occupation at the hands of the Terrans in this universe, you know, and who they seemingly became coming out of that collective trauma. Just a really interesting little world building note for this iteration of the Mirror Universe.
Yeah, I agree, for sure.
I feel like there is a lot else that I could get into, but like we can't do this forever and we're running long. But that I just wanted to sort of acknowledge, like, there's endless stuff to dig into in this episode. I mean, it's really like, this is the definition of a meaty episode of TV, where like you could really spend an hour with like certain 5-minute scenes. And so, if there are those of you out there who have things right now that you're yelling at your screen or at your AirPods that you wish we would bring up, please, you know, let us know. We would love to expand the conversation about this episode, because it really is, you know, such a good conversation starter.
Yeah. It's an excellent episode with so much to dig into, but we are trying not to take up all of your time. Just a little.
Well, shall we head over to behind the scenes then, Captain Steph?
Let's do it. So speaking of TNG, Michael Piller was resistant to making a sequel to the original series episode Mirror Mirror, which is the original crossover to the Horny Eyeliner Universe that we discussed earlier, until he began considering the consequences of Captain Kirk's actions. He realized that Kirk urging Mirror Spock to change his world was a massive violation of the Prime Directive. Again, classic Jim. Co-executive producer Ira Stephen Bear suggested that Spock's well-intentioned reform of the Mirror Empire actually backfired. So that's where we get the, you know, leaving it weak enough to be conquered by alliances like the Klingons and the Cardassians.
Right, yeah. Which is interesting because, I mean, I think Deep Space Nine, like any piece of art that tries to say important political things, there is, like, crunchiness to that, and I don't always agree with all of it. And sometimes in the effort to be, quote-unquote, realistic or grounded, I think that they sometimes fall into the trap of treating pessimism like logic, which is like a very common refrain amongst like trying to like take something historically silly and make it a little bit more grounded. And so I disagree with the idea that it's like, you know, Spock's reforms of the Terran Empire had to be a failure, right? The idea that it's like, that's a more realistic perspective to say that, like, as soon as they adopted any
Pacifist,
kind of appreciation for human rights, they immediately got stomped on. But I think that there is something interesting within that, because, yeah, if you create a world built on martial strength and then suddenly you decide to kind of like move on from that and pursue higher consciousness or whatever, you do have to take into account the fact that like all these people that you have subjugated for however long are existing now in the system that you created, where martial strength is the most important thing. And so, like, I don't necessarily agree with the premise of the statement, but I do think it was a really interesting idea to explore of, like, yes, the Terran Empire did reform, and it went badly for them. I don't think that was a guarantee, but it is, like, one of the ways it could have gone.
I mean, I don't know that they were saying it was, like, a foregone conclusion.
Okay.
I think it was like, that happened, yeah. I don't think it was like, and of course, then they were,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, writer Robert Hewitt Wolfe wrote that the fall of the Terran Empire in the script was sort of intended as an analogy for the fall of the Roman Empire to the various barbarians surrounding their territory, and of the fall of the Chinese imperial dynasty to the Mongol Empire. And so it was sort of very grounded in some sense of real world history. And I found that especially interesting because later iterations of mirror universe stories will imply that basically in the mirror universe, the Roman Empire never ended and it just grew into the Terran Empire. And so
interesting. Okay.
I think that is like an interesting alternate history, and then interesting that he was sort of already thinking about that when writing The Fall of the Empire here.
That's funny. This is where I took issue, because I was like, well, the Roman Empire didn't fall because they started being pacifists. Like, that is not what happened at all. And same with, like, the Chinese imperial dynasty. There are many factors that go into, like, the fall of those kind of empires,
Yes, I guess maybe...
about that.
Yeah, I guess maybe I thought he was just sort of, like, getting at the ways that, like, these powers collapse under their own weight and then become cannibalized by the powers around them that they used to oppress. But you're right, that is a very, very different circumstance, and in some ways it is kind of hard to see what they mean by, like, this was based on that.
And it's like,
it's like, well, did the Terran Empire have lead in their nacelles? Because I think that was a big part of it, actually.
Another little behind-the-scenes tidbit was Worf was actually supposed to appear in this episode, but
good old Mr. Worf.
Good old Mr. Worf. Michael Dorn was unavailable as he was filming the series finale of The Next Generation.
That counts as being busy. I'll give him that.
Yeah, fair enough. So his lines were instead given Garrick, and then the lines intended for Garrick were used instead for the new Klingon character Telok.
Which I don't think that can be exactly quite right. I mean, I'm sure that is like that conceptually Worf was the first officer and Garrick was this like underling. But I'm sure rewrites must have happened because Garrick is so Garrick in this episode.
Yeah.
They
sure.
don't feel like Worf lines that just then got given to Andy Robinson. I mean, maybe some of them are, but I think either Andy was ad-libbing or they did write in some stuff to make it feel more Garrick, because that Mirror Garrick character is Garrick in every way that matters, in a way that, like, I found very satisfying.
Yeah. I'm sure that, what's it called? It was, massage, not line by line, like.
Yeah. Actually, I can't believe I didn't think to bring this up when we were talking about it. It feels foolish, but, I mean, like I said, there's just so much to talk about. Garrick, in this episode, really interesting insofar as, like, we can't know for sure, but I think the audience is sort of meant to wonder, not only is this mirror Garrick, but, like, is this kind of an insight into what Garrick was like?
Yes.
The version of Garrick that we never got to meet before his exile. And that, I think, is fascinating, because I think the answer is absolutely yes. That, like, this is exactly what he was like. And for Garrick, it's not even so much a mirror, it's just, like, at a different point in his timeline.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I actually thought about that while watching, but forgot to, like, make a note to talk about that.
We're all just doing our best here.
We are. And we made it in the episode, and that's what counts.
That's what matters. Well, to close us out on behind the scenes, director David Livingston has gone on record saying he did not enjoy shooting this episode for several reasons. There was apparently a lot of pressure around the production generally. The station's diverse population of Klingons, Cardassians, and Bajorans required a much larger than usual amount of prosthetic makeup. And, the new sets were quite large and complex, and even existing sets like Quark's had to have changes made to them, like the big, like, I don't even know what it is usually. It kind of looks like a stained glass decal or whatever.
Almost, yeah.
That got replaced with the Klingon Cardassian Alliance banner. And so, that was a huge task. And then also there was all these on-set special effects, like the smoke and steam in the ore processing area, which just sort of all around seemed to have contributed to making this episode a gigantic pain in the ass to make, which...
We're sorry, David.
He didn't even mention filming with Kira in one role and then having to film it again with Kira in the other, but I imagine that made everything probably take twice as long because you had to film every scene that both of them were in twice.
I was thinking about that too. I was surprised he didn't mention that either. Like all this other stuff, but I was like, but wasn't it also that? But I don't know. Maybe that part was easy comparatively to everything
compared
else.
To like the rest. Yeah, that's possible. Just like takeaway is that this episode was a Herculean effort to produce, and so thank you, David Livingston, for your service. All right, well, let's take it over now to Design Corner, which is our segment where we settle in to discuss the sets, the costumes, the sounds, and overall production design of the episode.
Let's mosey on over there.
What would you like to highlight this week for design stuff?
So costumes, of course, is a big one for me this week. Yes. Kira and her BDSM catsuit takes the cake.
Yes. I think maybe we should talk about the catsuit because it's like, if you didn't watch the episode and you're listening along, you might be picturing like something Catwoman-y where it's kind of just like a black bodysuit, but no. The Intendant's catsuit has all kinds of detail to it. It's got, like, the BDSM harness with, like, her personal logo on, like, the chest thing. And it's got... It's almost... What's the word for, like, a suit with stripies? I know it has its... like a pinstripe. Yeah. It almost has, like, a pinstripe quality to it on parts of it. And then she has that amazing, like... tiara it's a really distinctive look. It's not just a black catsuit.
No. It's really, really great. And just she's got these like boots with it too that are 10 out of 10 in every respect, really.
These boots were made for stepping.
And I want them to step on my throat. Yeah, and then there was actually a prop that caught my eye, which is Quark has this little sugar bowl for Kira's tea when she's, in there talking to him about getting the transporter. And it's triangular. It's this beautiful little triangular, like, sugar bowl, and it's this deep, beautiful blue. And it was just so beautiful. It just caught my eye completely. And I just love the detail on little things like that. Like, that's on screen for what, like 2 seconds maybe? But the choices and the deliberate creation that all the teams do to create every little detail of the episodes, it just it really struck me.
Yeah, that's a fun catch. I do love they love a funky geometric when they're like finding background things, and I think that their instincts are very right. Is like it makes it feel. This is like kind of like a space version of like a more normal object. I mean, the mugs famously are like not all that outside of the realm of like a normal drinking glass, but they've got these funky sort of geometric things to them. And it works really well. Yeah. For me, I agree. The Intendant's bondage suit and crown, incredible. And also, I thought the lavender evening gown was likewise incredible. I mean, they both look stunning in that. And I love, you could still tell them apart because the Intendant is wearing her crown with the dress, and Kira doesn't have one, which is a lot of fun. The ore processing set was really cool. It feels oppressive and claustrophobic and hot. And I mean, like, I felt like I was sweating looking at it. And part of that is that it has been a horrible temperature in San Diego all week. But emotionally, I feel like they did a good job conveying that. Another costume I noted was Odo's look in this is nothing to necessarily write home about. Like, it's not like, you know, slay the boots down diva, but it's just a very nicely tailored outfit for him, which stood out because we just only ever see him in his little brown uniform. And part of the reason I wanted to highlight it specifically is that it's got a very nice sort of like high mandarin collar and little belt thing, and it looks excellent on him. It fits him really well. And apparently Rene Auberjonois also really liked those two elements to it, and that is why very soon those elements will be incorporated into Odo's regular costume. So if you have seen the show before, you know that Odo has a couple different variants of the security uniform, and most of them have a high collar and a belt, and that this is sort of where that comes from.
Oh, that's a fun little tidbit. Love that.
Yeah.
He did look
I thought
very
that was
good.
Neat. And the last thing that I wanted to highlight was the costumes that they did for the Terran prisoners. Specifically, they all wear on their chest a big metal disc in the shape of the Earth with like the continents on it. And I thought that was both a brilliant callback, because again, we've mentioned this episode, unlike a lot of modern media that revisits older media, is not all callbacks and Easter eggs and stuff like that. It's like very much its own, it stands on its own two legs, separate from Mirror Mirror. But in Mirror Mirror, the officers of the Imperial Starfleet, rather than the Delta symbol that we're used to, have a badge that is similarly like a metal plate with the depiction of the Earth on it and a dagger stabbed through it. And it's like a Earth going out to conquer kind of thing.
Earth
and so
with more violence somehow.
the callback to that symbol I thought was really, really excellent. And then especially the way that it is used in this episode, which is that the Earth badges are their Star of David, their little pink triangle. They are their concentration camp labels, whatever you want to call those. I'm sure they have an official name. Yeah, but and that I just thought was such a little design choice that added, for me, just a lot of pathos to the episode. Every single time the Bajor or the Terran slave laborers are on screen, it hit on an added level for me that it was like literally like the physical reminder of the Holocaust and the concentration camps. And particularly, I don't pretend to be, a World War II history expert by any means, and this is just me sort of like doing a little bit of conjecture, or maybe conjecture is the wrong word, but what I'm trying to say is, with the Star of David specifically, it wasn't just a symbol that the Nazis chose to dehumanize the Jews. It was a symbol that was powerful and important to the Jewish people that then they took and used to degrade and dehumanize them. And so taking the symbol of the Terran Empire and making that their concentration camp badge, I just thought was a brilliant little costuming decision.
That's a great point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Anything else you want to touch on in design, Stefarino?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot to get into this week. We so kind of talked a lot
in a great way. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you all for your patience with us. With this, this might be a slightly longer episode than usual, but I think it very much warranted it with the content.
I agree.
we try not to stick to a specific preset length here with these episodes. It's, where the fates and where the Deep Space Nine takes us. So thanks for being along with us on this ride, gang. And thank you all so much for joining us for this episode and our discussion of Crossover.
We have one final segment left in today's episode, a little something we like to call Consulting the Orb of Prophecy, where we look ahead into the future of the series and discuss spoilers that relate to this week's episode.
If you've watched Deep Space Nine before, or just don't mind spoilers, stick around after we sign off for that discussion. If you're watching along with us for the first time and don't want to be spoiled for future episodes, you're going to want to hop off after the sign-off.
The Star Trek Deep Space Nine Paramount cast is recorded in San Diego and Fremont, California, and produced by us, as well as our BDSM intendant, Peter.
A big thanks to friend of the show, Matt, who produced our theme music, and to Tumblr user at GrandCon221B, whose Star Trek pic crew was used to generate the avatars of us featured in the show's cover art.
New episodes drop every week on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
If you have any questions, comments, or would like to chat with us about Star Trek, you can email us at ds9cast@gmail.com.
You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky at ParamountCast for updates and memes.
Last but not least, if you're enjoying the show, please review and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. It really helps other folks to find the show. And please join us next week for our discussion of Deep Space Nine, Season 2, Episode 24, The Collaborator. It'll be a fun time, gang. See you there.
See you there.
Everyone, and welcome to the Inverse Wiggly Woo Zone, where not only are we non-linear, but also we did a little mirror flip, and so everything is upside down and non-linear at the same time.
This shit cray, bro. This shit cray.
We are here today to talk about that which has not yet happened in Deep Space Nine and the Star Trek franchise, and how it relates to the episode we discussed today.
And in this case, also in the Mirror Universe. So, like you said, many a dimension happening in Consulting the Orb today.
Indeed, and I agree. I think the big thing to talk about is the fact that after 7 seasons of Star Trek The Next Generation really carrying the torch of Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, I think, probably surprised people by being the one to bring the Mirror Universe back after it was absent since, the late 60s. And Deep Space Nine, this, was not a one-off. We will get, I think it's 4 more? Yep,
4 more Mirror episodes in Deep Space Nine.
And so, yeah, it's a big part of the show, this concept that we introduce here, this version of the Mirror Universe, because it's a bit different than how it's portrayed initially. I mean, that's always going to be the case. Steph, did you want to talk about those episodes at all?
I just wanted to give a little brief sort of overview of what's to come.
Go ahead.
For our listeners. So our next one is called Through the Looking Glass. So we use Kira's last line in the episode as the title. And in this case, Ben is actually the one to cross over. And he has to pretend to be Mirror Ben. So the very jovial and also unhinged, I would say, version
upsetting.
Of himself.
Yeah.
Upsetting. And in the Mirror Universe, Jennifer, his dead wife in this universe, is not dead. And he has to convince her, Jamie's favorite person. And so Mirror Ben, Ben pretending to be Mirror Ben, has to convince his not dead wife to defect to the side of the rebels, because it goes from not just kind of being a thorn in the side of the Alliance, but to a full-fledged Terran rebellion. And then Shattered Mirror is another one coming after that, where, again, not dead Jennifer returns. Much to Jamie's enthusiastic welcome.
I don't know why they thought we needed more of her. I just, that's crazy.
And she actually steals Jake away from our universe into the Mirrorverse in order to pull Ben back over again, and they want him to build a Defiant for the Terran rebels.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah, especially because Worf is now there and he has a Jabba the Hutt set up with Garrick, which is great.
Yeah, he's got Garrick on a chain in a way that is very delightful to me, and probably also Garrick.
And yeah, I mean, Andy Robinson, I'm sure, was very on board with that.
And then the last two are a little sillier.
Yeah, a little bit. One is called Resurrection because, spoilers, Barial is going to die in our universe. But
we've got another one at home.
Yeah, we have another. I Vedek Barial en la casa. He shows up, the mirror version, and it turns out...
Yeah, so we don't even go to the mirror universe on that one.
He comes over here.
Yeah.
And he's actually secretly working with Intendant Kira. So we still have Kira and Barial, unfortunately. But it's a little more fun with the mirror versions, I would say.
Way more fun, I would say. Because at least she's the top there. Yeah. That's like...
As she should be. And then last but not least, The Emperor's New Clothes, which involves Ferengi shenanigans in the mirror universe, because we just had to get some Ferengi nonsense in there as well.
Why not, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fun because when you remember that Mirror Quark died in this episode. So he's gone now.
Oh, yeah, he's gone fully. He did.
So it's like, Mirror Rom, Mirror Nog, like, and the reverberations of Quark's death will be felt. So we have those episodes to look forward to. The thing that I wanted to touch on as I was sort of starting to get at with, like, this is Deep Space Nine's version of the mirror universe. It might feel a little different from the TOS version. They do an amazing job tailoring the mirror universe that we get in this show to this show. Like, every mirror episode we get is, also very much a Deep Space Nine episode. And for me, I think, someone that didn't watch the original series until much later in life, I associate the mirror universe with Deep Space Nine. It feels like that is a concept that is very attached to DS9. Later shows... particularly Star Trek Discovery, will feature the mirror universe more heavily again. I'd say probably more heavily than they do in DS9.
Yeah.
And I just have written here all the stupid fucking mirror universe lore established in Discovery.
Tell us about it, Jamie.
the thing that just feels worth touching on to me is that the mirror universe after DS9 is over will no longer feel like the mirror universe that we get in DS9. I would say that the biggest distinction that we get is, we talked about this a lot already in the episode proper. They made the decision to not just go back in and it's like, wow, now it's Picard's ISS Enterprise. Now it's Evil Geordi instead of evil, like whatever. It's like we're following the events of Mirror Mirror and projecting out, like, how that might have changed things. And so for the version that appears in Deep Space Nine, I'm going to posit that it was the mirror universe insofar as things were really, really, really close and an almost exact evil mirror of TOS during that time. And because of the events that occurred in TOS, the universes have been getting further and further apart and are less of a mirror of one another by the time we get to DS9, right? Where it's like, they're still all the same players, but it's now like there is no mirror version of Starfleet anymore. That's gone. And so, there is a mirror Cisco, but he's not a captain. He's not an evil captain anymore. Like, it's like things are not as one-to-one in that way. And I think that is logical if we're thinking about this as just another universe out there somewhere in the multiverse. Another universe where things are different. So the players are the same, but things are different. Once we get to Star Trek Discovery and all of the shows that have mentioned the mirror universe following that, the mirror universe gets recontextualized as much more of a literal mirror opposite of the prime universe. So it's almost as though the two universes are not just two separate universes existing in the multiverse. They are like quantumly entangled with one another. And what happens in one universe affects what happens in the other insofar as they are mirrors of one another. And so in that idea, Terrans are like inherently evil.
They are like silly.
It is extremely silly. There is a quote that I'm going to read from Discovery where this computer is sort of telling the main Terran character that we get in Discovery, which is the Mirror Universe version of Philippa Georgiou, played by Michelle Yeoh. He's telling her, all Terrans are duplicitous by their biology. You may not be aware, but in the past 100 years, we've discovered a chimeric strain on the subatomic level in the Terran stem cell. Georgiou,
it's the evil strain.
yeah, it's like, oh, the evil in your DNA. And Georgiou immediately dismisses the possibility of this being a biological difference to her credit by saying, you cannot rattle me by introducing a completely fabricated biological component to my nastiness and inherently bad behavior, which is a great line. But it does seem that we are to take it that, like, Terrans are inherently brutal and violent in a way that non-mirror humans are not. And that is sort of the thesis statement of the mirror universe in those stories moving forward, which, okay, it is a way to take it. Like, I would almost say if you had only had mirror, that's almost a legitimate interpretation, right? Like, everyone in that episode is just kind of an evil version of the prime character. But it completely is broken by the mirror lore introduced in DS9. And so, you can kind of really, they can't coexist. You can either have the version of the mirror universe from DS9 where the Terrans were a horrible empire, but all of the people that were part of it were not inherently evil, and then hundreds of years later, obviously now the victims of similar oppression, Smiley is not inherently evil.
No.
Mirror Ben is not inherently evil. Like, that's silly. Or you can have the Discovery version where it's like a world of evil twins of everybody. And never the two shall really meet, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that is even furthered by, later we will learn, as Steph mentioned, there is Mirror Jennifer shows up, and we have some Mirror Jennifer and Cisco stuff, and we learn in the Mirror universe there is no Jake.
Yes.
And so
Jake does not
that
exist
is
in the mirror.
Because they never had a child together, which makes logical sense, except for the fact that in all of the other iterations of the Mirror universe, everyone always has a doppelganger. Even though that doesn't make any fucking sense. Because, like, Jim Kirk's parents shouldn't have met if the Terran Empire was happening. Like, the circumstances should not have been the same. But they are, and we just sort of accept that. But DS9 feels like it takes it the extra mile to be like, no, things have diverged such at this point that, like, some people don't exist.
Which makes sense in an alternate universe. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that the DS9 version is the more interesting version. But it is a snag now that exists in Star Trek continuity that is like, these two things can't actually really coexist with one another. And there is, I will say as my final point, they do mention in Discovery that at a certain point in the future, the mirror universe and the regular universe started getting further and further apart, and crossovers stopped happening because they were just further apart on the, like, multiversal abacus or whatever.
Okay.
And so I guess maybe you could say, all right, they're very, very close together in the 23rd century when TOS and the beginning of Discovery is set. And perhaps by the time of DS9, they have moved far enough apart that things are more different now. I don't think you could really make an argument for, and now Taryn's DNA is different and not evil because of that. But you could sort of fudge it if you wanted to, I guess,
if you
where
squint.
we have to leave that. Yeah. If you squint and cock your head to the side and think really hard about the intendant.
That's what I'll be doing in my bunk tonight.
Oh,
What?
me too.
Huh? Who said that?
Wow. Twin sisters. All right. Well, anything else for you, Steph, for Alarm of Prophecy?
Not for me. I think we had a good time today, and I look forward to more.
Yeah, let's head on back to our universe now, where things are.
I was going to say where things make sense, but
yeah. No, I mean that is really the thing that we have to like struggle with and accept is like we live in the mirror universe.
We kind of do, and it's
this
not fun.
is the bad.
This is the bad place.
And with that, listeners,
we will leave you.
We will see you all again next time in the bad place.
In the bad place. We love you.